CNN legal analyst Shan Wu is here. Gentlemen, thank you for being here. Ryan, the political side of it first. It doesn't seem like this FBI, report is a bombshell in terms of us knowing that Russia was on the president's mind and part of his reason for, if not the whole reason for firing James Comey. But what is the significance here when you put it all together and then look at the president trying to say the exact opposite thing this morning?
Well, it gives us one more piece of information about the process of firing Comey and how Trump was sort of manipulating that process, right? And the fact that McCabe was concerned enough that that President Trump was pushing the Justice Department into making this recommendation on the basis of Russia rather than some other reason on the merits. That speaks to this whole question of obstruction of justice. Was his firing part of did he cross the line into obstruction of justice when he fired the FBI director? So I think it is important. We all know that the memo that Rosenstein wrote criticizing Comey for the way he handled the Hillary Clinton investigation. We all know that Donald Trump did not fire Comey because of that. We know that Donald Trump celebrated the way that Comey handled that investigation in 2016. So it was always absurd on its face, that Rosenstein memo. And now we have one new piece of information saying that Trump wanted Rosenstein to mention Russia. And we know from half a dozen different pieces of information that Russia is the reason that Comey was fired. And now, of course, we saw Trump tweet today something to the opposite effect. But there's a long pattern here that Russia was on his mind when he fired the FBI director.
And mention Russia, right, Shan, in the way, according to a source in this story, that it would be to essentially exonerate Donald Trump, to say that, there was no problem for Donald Trump with the Russia investigation. What does that tell you? We know that in the memo it said he wanted Russia mentioned, right? That was his guidance. McCabe details that. But then other sources say the kind of mention he wanted was basically one that he later stressed with Jim Comey when he fired him, which was, and Jim Comey told me that I'm not under investigation. That's what he wanted. What does it tell you?
I think that's a very important point because it continues to support the idea that Trump really wanted to get that piece of information out, which he's going to get out somehow, even if he has to say it himself. I think something that troubles me about this, which could be a problem, I don't want to make any suggestions to the president's legal team, but if the issue presented by the McCabe memo is that Rosenstein was asked by the president to do something, refused to do it, obviously he needs to be questioned by that. It potentially leads to him being more of a fact witness in the probe than we may have realized. And that could potentially cause a problem with somebody trying to say, oh, he should be stepping down. He has a conflict as well.
But, and to that point, Ryan, Liz, you'll remember Rosenstein sat down with the folks that oversee this, the ethics folks, right? And said, can I ethically lead this, oversee the Mueller probe independently? And the determination was yes. Do you think this changes that in any way?
He is in such an unusual position in all of this because he's a witness in the investigation. We knew before this New York Times report already that he was a witness in the investigation just because he wrote that memo. Now we have an additional piece of information that puts him more at the center of the firing of Comey. And of course, because of Jeff Sessions' recusal, he's overseeing the Mueller investigation as a witness in that investigation. And he has said that he consulted with the ethics advisors at the Justice Department, the same kind of people who recommended that Sessions recuse himself, and that they have said that he doesn't see a reason to recuse himself, that there's no reason for him to recuse himself yet. And he's also said that if that changes, he will be public about that. I know there are certainly people who think he should recuse himself because of that. A lot of other people think he is the only thing coming in between Donald Trump firing Mueller, and that he's actually doing his best to sort of protect that investigation. But he is in the center of this thing in so many ways.
Shan, one source told CNN's Jim Acosta that the president is really directing much of the political strategy on the investigation. The legal strategy actually seems to be a political strategy here. Rudy Giuliani's embracing that, but I wonder what you think his lawyers should be thinking about this approach.
Yeah, I think Giuliani's tactics are beginning to bear some fruit. He's getting more consistency in terms of what he's putting out there. But it's clear his role is completely that of a spokesperson, a PR person, looking to plant the seeds to undermine any eventual result. I mean, his idea, this naked assertion he makes that things will be wrapped up by September 1st with regard to the president's obstruction, just seems really unrooted in any semblance of the investigative reality. I mean, it's fine to try to compartmentalize the president's obstruction issues, but realistically, the probe's got to finish looking at the other witnesses, other cases, other possible cooperations before you could get there. So his strategy seems clear, but what it's grounded in seems increasingly weak.
Unrooted in the investigative reality. Shan, thank you so much. Ryan, Liz, I really appreciate you being with us as well.